Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready for a deep dive that might just flip your perspective?
Always.
Awesome. Today we're exploring the positive side of loneliness.
Ooh,
I
interesting.
know, right? Might sound a little counterintuitive,
Yeah.
but trust me, this source makes a really compelling case. We're going to uncover how solitude can actually boost things like your freedom, independence, even your creativity.
Wow. Okay. I'm intrigued.
You should be. So,
I'm ready to have my mind blown.
me too, honestly. All right, so jumping right in.
Yeah.
This source really flips the script on how we typically view loneliness.
How so?
Well, we usually see it as like this negative thing, right? Something to be avoided at all costs.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
But this source asks, what if it's not the enemy we've made it out to be?
That's a good question.
Right. Makes you think. Okay, so let's unpack this loneliness as freedom concept.
Okay.
The source argues that being constantly connected can actually feel limiting. Have you ever felt that?
Oh, yeah, all the time. It's like you're always on, like you said, always responding to everyone else's needs and expectations.
Exactly. And it can be exhausting.
Totally. It's like we're on this treadmill of expectations, work, social media, family, everything.
Yes. And it can be hard to step off.
You said it. But that's where solitude comes in. The source describes it as hitting the pause button.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah. You suddenly have space to breathe, to think about what you want, reconnect with your own desires.
It's about making choices that actually align with your values, not just going with the flow.
Right. Which is super empowering when you think about it.
Absolutely. And it's funny, we celebrate extroverts so much in our society.
Yeah, for sure.
But this source highlights the power of introversion.
Makes you wonder if we've got it all backwards.
Right. It's like saying, hey, being comfortable with your own company, that's a strength,
Yeah.
not a weakness.
It's like a superpower. And speaking of strengths, the source goes on to explore how solitude can boost your independence.
Makes sense. Less reliance on others.
Yeah, it's about learning to trust yourself, to navigate challenges on your own.
Which can be tough sometimes, right?
It definitely isn't always easy.
No.
Facing things alone can be hard, but
But it builds resilience.
exactly, you come out stronger, more confident, like you can handle whatever life throws at you.
It's like that saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Yeah. But let's be real. How often do we actually give ourselves permission to just be alone with our thoughts?
Not enough, probably.
Right. So maybe intentionally carving out that alone time is the key to unlocking that next level of independence.
Something to think about. And speaking of unlocking things,
Oh.
this source makes another super interesting connection.
Oh.
Solitude and creativity.
Ooh, tell me more.
Well, think about some of the greatest minds in history.
Okay.
Artists, scientists, writers. So many of them attributed their breakthroughs to periods of solitude.
Makes sense. Less distractions, more focus.
Right. Like I was reading about how J.K. Rowling spent hours alone in cafes just writing, crafting the world of Harry Potter.
Wow, that's a great example.
It really makes you wonder if all the distractions we surround ourselves with are actually stifling our own creative spark.
I know, it's kind of mind-blowing. And actually, there's science to back this up.
Really?
Yeah. When you're not constantly bombarded with information and stimuli, your brain has more space to wander, to make connections that lead to new ideas.
It's like clearing out all the clutter to make room for inspiration.
Exactly. So instead of dreading those moments of solitude.
We should embrace them.
Exactly. And you know what? The source takes it a step further and challenges us to actually reframe loneliness as a source of pleasure.
Whoa, okay. How do they do that?
Well, it's about savoring those simple joys we often take for granted. Things like reading a book without being interrupted, taking a long walk in nature, or just enjoying a meal at your own pace.
It's about finding contentment in your own company.
Exactly.
So instead of reaching for our phones every time we have a free moment,
Maybe we should be reaching for a good book.
or a paintbrush, or just some peace and quiet.
Yeah. It's about recognizing that solitude doesn't have to equal sadness or isolation. It can be a time for rejuvenation, for doing the things you truly enjoy, for just appreciating those simple moments.
Makes you rethink those times when you feel that little pang of loneliness.
Right.
What if instead of resisting it, we lean in? Just give ourselves permission to be without any expectations or pressure.
Now that's a powerful shift.
And you know what? It gets even more interesting. The source argues that spending time alone can actually make your relationship stronger.
Oh. Now that sounds a bit counterintuitive.
Right. How does being alone make you better at relationships?
Well, think about it this way. When you spend time in solitude, you get to know yourself better.
Like,
You become more aware of your values, your needs, your boundaries, and all that self-awareness allows you to show up in your relationships in a more authentic and meaningful way.
so it's like taking time to charge your own batteries so you can bring your best self to your interactions with others.
Exactly. Instead of seeking connection out of a sense of lack or desperation.
Yeah. You approach relationships from a place of confidence and intentionality.
Right.
This is so insightful. It's like you're saying that solitude isn't about isolating yourself from others, but it's about nurturing yourself so you can connect with others on a deeper level.
You got it. And sometimes, honestly, taking a step back from that constant interaction can make you appreciate the connections you do have even more.
Absence makes the heart grow fonder.
Exactly.
This whole conversation is making me rethink my own relationship with loneliness.
Yeah.
What if it's not something to fear, but an opportunity for growth, self-discovery, maybe even a deeper connection with others?
That's a powerful realization.
Yeah, go on.
And, yeah, it really is. And it's important to remember choosing to embrace solitude doesn't mean you have to become a hermit or anything.
Right, like finding that balance.
Exactly. It's all about that sweet spot between time alone and time spent connecting with others.
Yeah, finding that healthy equilibrium.
Right. But sometimes it does feel like our culture kind of pushes us towards constant connection.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Like being alone is somehow a sign of failure?
Which is so not true. And that's exactly what this organization called LPot is trying to change.
LPot? I haven't heard of them.
Have you not? They're pretty cool. They're dedicated to, like, reframing how we think about loneliness.
Interesting. What do they do?
So they offer resources, programs, even online communities, all designed to help people embrace solitude and use it to their advantage.
So they're like giving people permission to step off that hamster wheel.
Yeah. And, finding peace and fulfillment in their own company.
I love that.
Yeah. And they offer a bunch of different approaches, like workshops on self-discovery, retreats for quiet reflection, even online communities for connecting with other people who value solitude.
It's like they're creating a space where people can explore this positive side of loneliness without judgment or stigma.
Right. It's about fostering a sense of belonging, even when you're alone.
That's so powerful.
And they also talk about how loneliness can sometimes be a sign of growth.
It might mean you're becoming more self-aware, more comfortable with who you are, less reliant on external validation and all that.
So it's like you're graduating from needing constant companionship to actually enjoying your own company.
Yeah, it's a pretty amazing transformation.
It really is.
And they emphasize this idea that embracing solitude is a choice.
Oh, for sure.
Like, you don't have to force yourself to be alone if you're genuinely craving connection.
Right. It's about tuning in to your own needs.
Exactly. It's recognizing the value of those moments when you are alone and using them intentionally.
Okay, so it's about taking ownership of your alone time and making it work for you rather than feeling like a victim of circumstance.
You got it. And again, like we said before, it doesn't mean becoming a hermit or anything.
Right.
It's about that healthy balance. Sometimes you need connection, sometimes you need solitude. The key is listening to your inner voice and honoring your needs.
So what does this all mean for our listeners? How can they start incorporating some positive solitude into their own lives?
Well, I think it starts with small steps.
Okay.
Maybe it's carving out just 15 minutes a day to sit in silence, disconnect from everything, and just be present with your thoughts.
Could even be something like taking yourself on a solo date to a museum or a park.
Yes. Or trying a new hobby you can enjoy on your own.
Right. And if they're looking for more guidance or maybe a community they can connect with, LPot seems like a great starting point.
Oh, yeah, definitely. They have a ton of resources and support for exploring the positive side of loneliness. We'll make sure to include a link to their website in the show notes.
Awesome.
And remember, this is just the beginning of the journey, right?
Yeah.
There's so much out there to help people embrace solitude and all the benefits that come with it.
It's exciting. Thinking about loneliness not as something to fear, but as this pathway to self-discovery, creativity, even deeper connection.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling inspired to reframe my own relationship with solitude.
Me too, honestly.
And before we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with one last thought-provoking question. If loneliness can really be a pathway to all these positive outcomes, what steps can you take today to start exploring that potential in your own life?
That's a great question. Yeah, it really makes you think, like how much we've been missing out on by just assuming loneliness is always a bad thing.
Right. Like, what if instead of fearing it, we saw it as this chance to recharge, connect with ourselves on a deeper level and then come back to our relationships even stronger?
That's a total paradigm shift.
It is. And I think that's what I find so exciting about organizations like LM.
What do you mean?
Well, they're not just offering resources, they're challenging these deeply ingrained beliefs we have about being alone.
Yeah, like they're creating a space where solitude is seen as a strength.
Exactly. And, challenging those old narratives, those limiting beliefs, that's what personal growth is all about.
Maybe learning to embrace solitude is like the key to unlocking a whole new level of freedom and fulfillment.
I think so. And remember, embracing solitude doesn't have to mean making huge changes. Start small. Maybe it's just 5 minutes of meditation in the morning.
Or a walk in the park after work.
Yeah. Or even just choosing to, savor a cup of tea in silence instead of scrolling through your phone.
It's about being intentional with your time and recognizing that those moments of solitude, they're not empty spaces to be filled.
They're opportunities. Opportunities for growth and connection.
I'm starting to see loneliness in a whole new light.
Me too.
It's not the monster under the bed. It's more like a hidden treasure waiting to be discovered.
That is such a beautiful way to put it.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
what final thoughts do you want to leave our listeners with?
I could say approach solitude with curiosity and openness.
Oh, I like that.
Explore it, experiment with it, and see what happens. You might be surprised at what you find.
I think that's a perfect note to end on. Thanks for joining us on this journey into the unexpected upsides of loneliness.
My pleasure.
And remember, embracing solitude just might be the key to unlocking a more fulfilling and authentic life. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, keep diving deep.